Did you think that Eddie King was dead after getting his face fried in Deadfall? Well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But his doppelganger is certainly in the movie that we watched today, which was called Arsenal?
Yes.
I forgot.
Arsenal.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Interesting choice of words.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah!
Oh my god.
I'm a pixie pear!
Okay, let's run.
This is the Unbearable Fate of Massive Talent. I'm Brittany Green.
And I'm Liz Kurtzman.
And, we saw a movie.
We technically saw a movie.
Yeah. Did you... how do we jump into this?
Oh boy. This movie was very rough to watch. It's not, fun bad. It's just sort of boring and confusing.
Boring and confusing, I think, about wraps it up.
Yes, and as we said at the top, we watched this movie because it's supposedly a sort of sequel, sort of not really, to Deadfall, which was the last movie we watched. And Nicolas Cage is in this movie as the bad guy, who is wearing the same wig, nose prosthetic, and sometimes the accent's there from the last film.
Yeah, sometimes he's doing the thing where he doesn't put his lips together, and sometimes not.
Sometimes he's just yelling. So he's in the same sort of costume and with the same name, but the rest of it doesn't really line up.
It does not line up at all. First of all, that movie, he was in Los Angeles. This one takes place in Louisiana.
Yes, and which, yes, obviously he can move, but
also he's, very dead at the end of the other one.
Yes.
And they, specifically say he has ties to Louisiana and New York, and as far as we know from Deadfall, he was never in either of those places.
He was in, we think, L.A. We were trying to remember.
We're pretty sure L.A.
Definitely California, probably L.A. This one actually takes place in Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi.
Oh.
But yeah, they're like, oh yeah, he's got connections in New Orleans, he's got connections in New York, which we did not see. And then also, the beginning of this film is a flashback to 1994, which would be a year after Deadfall takes place. And he is not. His face is not fried.
Yeah. I guess
so
technically after Deadfall, he does no longer have ties to Los Angeles.
Yep, he got really good plastic surgery, but kept the nose for some reason.
Yeah, and the guy he had ties to is dead.
Yes.
Or is he? Yeah, he's dead.
No.
No?
Yes.
He's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead?
Yeah, sorry, I got confused because of the twins thing. Yeah, his boss is dead at the end of that film. And the twin brother's alive. Woof. Wow.
Oh my god.
What a great... We're going to spend this whole podcast trying to figure out what the hell we watched.
What did we just see? It didn't make any sense.
Oh.
So it kind of follows these two brothers.
Yeah.
They're sort of our main characters. Kind of a Goofus and Gallant tale. Of two brothers. One, the older brother, who, had to keep them alive, basically, after their uncle, who is their caretaker, kills himself. And
his brother is so when we first see the brothers, they're going into this arcade, and the little brother asks his older brother, Mikey, for quarters at the arcade. And not only does he not give him quarters, but he hits him.
That's brother stuff.
I guess. It was weird. It was a slap across the face hit, not we're mad at each other and fight hit. And then, when he wins, he gives his little brother his baseball cards. And so it's oh, that's nice, I guess. And I'm this is going to be a weird relationship. I could tell. And yeah, his older brother, the older brother is Mikey. The younger brother is JP. And I kept writing down JC. And so when we meet them again, Mikey is the fuck up. He was in the Marines, got dishonorably discharged.
Yeah.
He got involved with crime. He tried to sell coke. He's divorced. He has a really awful relationship with his ex-wife and teenage daughter. And, you know, JP has, like, this great life. He owns a construction company and has a beautiful wife with a baby, and he's very happy. And so, you know...
We're sort of led to believe the reason for this is the scene when they're little kids. And for some reason, Mikey is doing jobs for Eddie King, who is, like, this crime lord.
Well, it's because this was not fully explained. So, I think they were living with their uncle.
Yep.
And the uncle killed himself.
Yep.
And they came back from school, and he found him... Mikey found the uncle with his head all blown open. So he sends his little brother off with quarters to the arcade so he won't see it. And then, I guess, walks right to the arcade, question mark?
And
or
then
a
it's
different
like,
location?
crime boss, give me a job.
Yes. And so he, I think, used to mow lawns and stuff. And so he gives that job to JP and says, you got to do this now so I can go do crime. And that mower that he gave him was the cornerstone of JP's future construction company.
Yeah.
So, even if Mikey's a fuck up, he did sort of pave the way for his brother to be a success, is kind of at the heart of this film. Yeah, and let me tell you, 30 minutes into this movie, we did not know, at that point, what the conflict was.
It took a long time to get there.
Other than, like, obvious family drama and, like, oh, his brother is involved in bad stuff.
Yeah.
And there was, like, the cocaine thing, which was sort of tied to the central conflict, but, like, not in that moment. And, like, we did not know what we were there for. We just meandering through this film.
We did get introduced pretty early on to John Cusack.
Yeah.
And
oh boy.
I don't really know how, like, is the rule if the older brother gets involved with a crime boss that the younger brother then has to become taken under the wing by, like, a similarly aged man of the law?
You know, if that had been it, that would have been more interesting than what we got.
Is that the rules of life?
Yeah.
That's the rule of this movie.
I think that is. I think
they
it
never
is.
explain why JP is friends with this cop who's played by John Cusack.
No.
John Cusack just shows up to warn him, like, hey, I think your brother's getting into bad stuff again, and I'm not gonna bust him, but he's gonna get himself killed. He's gonna get into trouble.
Why is he not busting him? Like, what does he owe them? Or, like, why does he care about
the relationship
them?
is not explained.
Also, it's important for you all to know that John Cusack shows up in aviators and a do-rag.
Why?
He's, like, 50 years old, and I don't know if he's supposed to be an undercover cop, and that's him being undercover is having a do-rag.
There's a lot of white people with questionable hairstyles and style choices in this.
There is. There really is. But yeah, I just wanted, after we got that flashback at the beginning, I was like, well, give us some background info on, like, why this guy cares about them.
Yeah, we never got that. He's
never
just
know.
there. And then he's, like, a cop who's allowing JP, the construction man, to come with him and, like, just, like, rough people up and have a gun and just break into people's houses and, like...
I will say, besides his outfit, though, I don't feel like the role was weird enough for John Cusack. Do you know what I mean? It felt like a waste of John Cusack. He could be a weird dude, and he was just sort of there.
He was just sort of there.
I don't know. It didn't end up being that big of a role either.
No.
Because he disappears for the whole end of the film.
Yeah, where is he when they're actually going to go take down the crime boss?
I think
Why can't he help them take down the crime boss lawfully?
I don't know.
Like, because he knows what's going on.
Well, that's the line he can't cross. He can't go in there murdering people. But then I'm like, but
you
it was
could
a
just
crime
arrest
boss.
us. Yeah.
You know, he's kidnapped a man. You just go in there and you're like, give us the man or we'll shoot you.
Yeah.
I think that's how it works. Yeah, he's just inexplicably
gone
in this movie until he's not. Comes back for the cookout at the end, though.
He is at the cookout. That's
he does
important.
show up again.
Yeah, so I guess we should explain a little bit, sort of, the crux of the movie. Mikey, the older brother, is a fuck-up, and he needs money, and he has borrowed 10 grand from JP that he uses to buy coke, and then the coke gets stolen from him, so he has no money again, and he can't go back to JP to ask for more money because, you know, reasons, obviously.
Because he already... Because he feels bad about losing the 10.
Feels bad about losing the 10. And obviously...
Because JP tries to chew him out for it, and he's like, well, I won't ask you for any more money then. Like, I'm sorry about that, you know?
Yeah. And so he goes to Eddie, and I think he's going to Eddie to ask for a job, basically. Yeah. And Eddie's like, I've got an idea of how we can get 6 figures each. And he sort of proposes, I think.
He mentions, you know, your brother has that construction company. I saw there was an article about, like, how well he's doing. And so you're like... And then we sort of cut the scene there.
I think they intentionally leave it vague so that
yes.
you're not sure if he took him up on the offer or not. Because
right, and you're not entirely sure what the offer is until
the next thing we know is he's, like, been taken hostage, basically.
Yeah, someone calls JP and says, you know, we have your brother, you have to pay us $350,000 in the next 4 days. And at that point, you're like, oh, is this, like...
Like, is Mikey in on it?
Is Mikey in on it, pretending to be kidnapped? Or is this just, like, they actually kidnapped him? And, you know, at that point, we've seen Mikey is not a great dude. He's terrible to his ex-wife and daughter. We've seen him beat the shit out of several people. The people who broke into the house and took the coke. We were cracking up because he sees someone is breaking into his house, so he goes into this, like, chest of weapons, and instead of grabbing a gun, he pulls out this wicked-looking axe.
Like,
goes after the guy.
Let me murder you in the most gruesome way possible.
Yes, and that's another thing we should talk about. This movie is so gruesome. The gore in this is unbelievable.
Yeah. So this
you
came out
see people's heads, like,
explode.
You see their teeth knocked out. You see sprays of blood, and just, like, it's gratuitously gory. Like,
so, yeah.
Slasher movie gory.
This came out in 2017, about 5 years ago, and my only thing is, at this time, we've got Zack Snyder is kind of a big deal still. Still is, honestly, like, now. But, and
John Wick 2.
John Wick 2 had just come out, and so contextualizing that, all of these, like, sort of gritty, over-the-top, bloody kind of action movies, and this is, I think, trying to be that. I just wish it hadn't taken itself so seriously, which is a weird thing to say because you literally have Nicolas Cage with a weird fake nose and a weird fake wig.
Yes.
But it's a movie that could have been a little bit more fun.
Yeah, it is. Other than, like, Nicolas Cage is over the top in this, and the acting is ridiculous, but he's still the best part of this film because the rest of it is just joyless.
Yeah.
It's just that grittiness without, like, any
slow
sort of
motion
lightness.
with blood splatters.
Yes. Their idea of, like, joyfulness in this film is they have, like, the brothers play baseball twice. Like,
which, honestly, is my complaint about Zack Snyder a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Is they're just sort of joyless and violent.
Yeah. Which I can agree with. I think that, like, because I was also thinking of the movie Logan because it came out the same year as this. And that is a movie that is very violent. It's very sad. And it is, like, most of it is very sort of, like, gritty, apocalyptic, washed out. But there are still moments of, like, joy and, like, jokes.
You need the contrast. Otherwise, it's just kind of a slog.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And this was a slog. And it doesn't help that every fight scene, they do the slow motion. And it is, like...
Every fight scene is the slow motion. And, like, so, like, John Wick doesn't have... Like, I'm trying to think of, like, so I love the John Wick movies. And they are not, I think that they know when they're funny.
Yeah.
But, like, the choreography is, like, way more fun to watch.
It's
of
dynamic.
The fight scenes. It's dynamic.
The choreography of the fights and also of the camera work.
Like, there's not jokes in the John Wick movies, but, like, there's moments that are so over the top that they're funny because of, like, the creativity of the fight scenes.
There are certainly, like, moments of levity, though, where, like, something will happen and it'll just close up on John Wick's face and he's just like,
fuck.
Okay.
Or that.
Yeah, like, and it works.
Like, in 3, when he's fighting the giant, it's one of my favorite things. Of, like, the giant's coming towards him and he's, like, skittling backwards, like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Yes, it works. And also, like, sometimes slow motion, like, I think the most famous example, or the one that we think of a lot, is, like, the Sherlock Holmes movies.
Or The Matrix, I was going to say.
Obviously,
the original,
The Matrix. Right. And I think Sherlock Holmes, though, is, like, the one that does the speed up,
Guy
slow
Ritchie
down.
does that a ton.
Yeah,
right?
he does.
Like,
and it works, even though, like, I think, Sherlock Holmes is too much, by the end of the film, and certainly by the second film. But this movie, it's not even that, like, speed up, slow down kind of thing. It's just truly, like,
it's
3 minutes of
slow
slow motion. And it's just, like, oh my god, the final fight scene almost killed me. I think I, like, sighed out loud, like, 10 times.
You can't get away... like, the other thing is, like, the Guy Ritchie movies that are kind of over the top sometimes with the slow motion... Like, they're just better movies, though.
Yes.
Like...
Right. It works because, again...
It's like something they're getting away with more than something that, like, makes them good, right? Like...
Right. Yeah, they don't have to get away with it. But, yeah, it's like they don't... I don't know. Something was missing here where they didn't quite understand, like, why that gets included in films. It was just... They were just like, it's cool.
It's cool to go in slow motion and have slow motion blood sprays.
Friends, it is not. Not in this film.
I've never been so bored by an action sequence.
Yes. Yeah.
Except for it is funny sometimes to see people's faces in slow motion.
When it's supposed to be like, it is like a gruesome shot, but their face is in slow motion, so you're like...
Not even like doing anything. Like, that's the thing too, is like, even like, I didn't get the sense that like the funny faces in the slow motion, because that's another way that slow motion can be kind of fun, is if it's intentionally like... this person's reacting to this, but I didn't get that from these. It was just like sort of like awkward face, where it's like, it like when you pause a movie and somebody's face just looks funny. That's like what I was getting, Okay, so have you ever seen the movie House of the Dead? No.
Okay, we're gonna watch House of the Dead sometime because it's truly one of the worst
Is
films.
it like based on the zombie video games?
It is.
Those are my favorite.
Let me tell you, they include clips of that game in the movie.
Oh my god, yes.
It's bananas. It's one of the worst films ever made. And it's a Uwe Boll film. I don't know how to say his first name. But there's this famously, it's one of the last films to use like the 360 camera. Okay. Because the 360 camera is like really dangerous. And it does the like swooping slow motion around people. And there's truly a 10-minute scene where they just do that to everyone in the scene like 10 times. And it's bananas. And I was thinking of that when I watched this, because I was like, they're just like, that's really cool, and we'll show people doing it. And after a minute of that, you're like, please stop. Please stop. I don't want to watch this. Anyway, watch Land of the Dead, or House of the Dead, instead of watching this film is what I'm here to say.
Man, when I was a teenager, I can't tell you how many quarters I spent on playing the House of the Dead video game when I was like waiting for like... They had an arcade little setup in our, like, local movie theater.
Uh-huh. Yes, we had that, too.
We played House of the Dead.
And they always had House of the Dead.
Had House of the Dead. I think it was, like, House of the Dead 2. Because there's a whole bunch of them.
I think movie theaters bought up all the old House of the Dead.
God, let me tell you how disappointed I am. Because that movie theater that's back in my hometown got rid of their little arcade so that they could put in a bar and sell alcohol.
Ugh.
And I get that that's probably a bigger moneymaker. But...
Than arcade games with quarters?
Honestly, arcade games with quarters, because, like, you keep dying, and you gotta keep feeding the machine. Yeah. And it's, it's a problem. But, I'm just upset by it. Just taking something away for the,
one of my
favorite... For the kids. For the youths.
For the youths.
The youths don't have enough,
Yep. One of my favorite barcades, has House of the Dead. And... one time, my friend and I, the first time we went to this barcade, they have a whole menu of shots. And so we did a bunch of them because they were fun and they had video game names. And then we were very drunk. And we played through the House of the Dead, the whole thing. Yeah. And like at a barcade, you don't have to put quarters in, So we would die and we would keep going. And then I went and tried to play it sober. And I was like, how could I have possibly played this whole thing? Like, it takes an hour.
It takes a long time.
We were in like... drunk time. We probably stood there for 2 hours. But it is incredible, and I love it so much.
Yeah. Anyways, back to the
movie. Is not this. I guess we should talk about that movie. Why don't we just talk about House of the Dead for the next hour?
Man, I have spent $20s on House of the Dead, I'll tell you.
I just saw a note that I wrote that says, Mikey is ripped and depressed.
That is true.
Yes. The man had the widest
He had
shoulders.
shoulders on his shoulders.
He looked like a Dorito chip. Yeah, and then
very sad.
it was very sad. Oh, I forgot about the scene where PJ took a fully clothed bath with his wife.
Oh, yeah. What's up with that?
I don't know. It's just to show how happy he was.
So happy.
He was, like, gratuitously happy. Do you know what I mean? In the way that you,
They just had to contrast his brother, like, sitting on the couch having, like, suicidal ideations.
Yes.
With him, like, happily, like, crawling into the bathtub fully clothed with his wife.
Yes.
People take baths fully clothed a lot in movies.
They do.
I've never done that in real life. Have you?
Not I. Absolutely not. Never. Couldn't be me. Jeans, too. He had jeans.
Those take years to dry.
And his wife was naked in bed, or in the bath, and I was like, I would not like that if someone got fully clothed in with me.
Just take your clothes off.
Just take your clothes off. We can wait 1 minute for you to do that. It's still romantic. Yeah, if it was another movie, if it was a different kind of movie, you only see, like, someone this happy if they're definitely gonna die. Their wife is gonna die, or they're gonna die, yeah. Right? So there's part of me that was like, is his wife gonna die? Maybe. But she just wasn't in the film, really.
No, she was just there to, like, be like, your brother's a problem.
Yep. Oh, I hate his ex-wife.
His ex-wife is the worst. Why can't he just get it together?
Why can't he? I don't know. Oh my god, the 4th of July scene. I
liked when he said, why are we doing this right now? It's Independence Day.
Yes, we don't talk about money on Independence Day, even though that's the most American thing to do.
But also, like, that he said, like, do people call it Independence Day in just, like, regular?
I think only if they're in the movie Independence Day.
Right? Like, only if you're Jeff Goldblum or Will Smith do you call it
Bill Pullman.
Or
that's
Bill
the only
Pullman.
time you say Independence Day. I did laugh because this was when I first started noticing this thread, and I'll ask you this question now. Is this a Secret Jesus movie?
So, they brought up Jesus more times than is normal in a movie. In
a movie where people are getting their heads blown apart.
I wish they had brought it full circle and mentioned Jesus again at the end of the movie.
Or at the beginning. You know what I mean?
At the beginning, I guess.
I mean, yeah, at the end it would make more sense.
I mean, like, 4th of July was still kind of the beginning.
Yeah, but I was thinking about when they were kids.
Yeah. Well, he had the story about when they were kids, and he saw the homeless preacher guy, and he thought he was talking about his brother, but he was talking about Jesus.
It was every time.
Which is, like, a little sacrilegious, I guess, if he's, like, comparing his brother and Jesus. So I'm going to say no, not a Secret Jesus movie.
All right.
Just, like, using some religious, like...
Because there's also the part where his brother talks to God.
He's like, if you get me out of this, then I'm going to get it together, and I'm going to get my daughter into good schools. And,
yes.
You know, like, all that stuff.
Yeah. And then there's, like, another... I don't remember what the other Jesus reference is, but there's another part. But
I only counted the 2, but I would believe it if I just missed one.
Yeah, it was odd. And
then there's the gospel music.
Maybe that was it. There's a lot of gospel
music.
There's a lot
of gospel... There's gospel music every time that Eddie King, like, brutally murders
someone brutally with a pipe,
and basically. I said at one point, why is there gospel music in this movie? And he said, because they think it's edgy, and I was like, you're right, and I hate it.
Yeah, no, they're definitely trying to do sort of a, like, like an Edgar Wright or Tarantino, where they
like,
play, like,
the
they juxtapose it. They juxtapose violence with a
something,
song,
like, happy and positive.
Yeah, like, playing gospel music while violence happens could be interesting, but it
has to be in a better movie.
Yes. And also, it was just, like, too long. It was too out of place. Like, you know, it didn't work in this film at all.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
Going for that, like, Reservoir Dogs, or not Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs. I keep getting Reservation Dogs and Reservoir Dogs confused, and so I thought I was getting them mixed up again. I wasn't. The Reservoir Dogs thing where he's chopping off the ear and they've got Hooked on a Feeling playing.
Yes, yeah.
Or not Hooked on a Feeling.
No, it's Stuck in the Middle with You.
Stuck in the Middle with You.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, Tarantino does that a lot. So, yeah, they wanted to do that.
God, we have so many bad movies that we can just, like, blame on Quentin Tarantino inspiring all of these directors to, like, just do these over-the-top action movies that are just so bad.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tarantino. You inspired a whole generation of terrible directors.
He walks a really thin tightrope. And sometimes, his movies fall off that tightrope. And sometimes they're great. And everyone else who tries to follow him is just...
to his credit, I'll say, I think even Tarantino's mediocre ones are, on the, above 50% on Rotten Tomatoes side of, they're still watchable.
Yes, because he can do the style.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to imitate.
But they can't do the style.
They can't do the style.
Yeah.
They don't get, they just don't get it. Some components missing. Everything, okay, one of the things I also think is funny about this film is all of the subtext, they just make text.
Oh my god.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the 4th of July prayer. When he's telling that, and we're like, oh, okay, so he is saying, clearly he's talking about Jesus, but what he really means is his brother. It's like a metaphor. And then at the end, he just straight up says, my brother is like Jesus. And I'm like, okay. And then at the end, not at the end, there's in the middle when he's trying to justify, all the stuff he's doing to save Mikey. He's like, he gave me that mower. And I'm like, you just said it. Okay. We just said it.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not just supposed to, figure that out. You're just, okay. Really gotta let us know what the themes are.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Anyway, in case you weren't sure. The barmaid.
Law and Order barmaid.
Law and Order barmaid. She went to the Law and Order School of Acting. So yeah, Mikey goes missing, and he's supposed to find $350,000, and, JP is running everywhere trying to figure it out, and it's teamed up with John Cusack. And they go to question this bartender who was at the bar when Mikey went to talk to Eddie, right? And so they talk to her outside when she's taking out trash, she's doing a task. And of course she remembers everything. She doesn't remember Mikey, but she of course is but Eddie and his friends came in at this time and blah, 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 blah. And then
at 11 p.m. and yeah.
Just goes about her business without even checking to see, are we
is
done?
That all you needed?
Yeah,
she
just walks away. Questions? She's just oh, but Eddie and his team came in at this time, and
I'm
then
gonna go finish putting the trash at the dumpster.
And I was like, okay, I guess we're done. Thanks.
All right, so I feel like, this is a Nicolas Cage podcast. Let's delve a little bit into Nicolas Cage's performance here.
Yes, let's do it.
So, first of all, he's playing the same role, technically, as Deadfall, but this is 23 years later?
Yeah, even though the first scene is 1 year later.
Right, but, in real life.
In real life, 24 years later.
24 years later. Better version of Eddie, do you think?
So, it's interesting, because he is definitely unhinged, and he's got the costume, which still looks
It's the
insane.
exact same costume. It's insane.
Pretty sure it's the same prosthetic nose, the literal same prosthetic.
He kept it in his junk drawer.
Yeah. And they put it on his face. It's not the same color as the rest of his face.
It's kind of yellow. Yeah. Although everyone's kind of yellow, but the nose is more yellow than the rest of his face.
As you said, this film is jaundiced.
It's so jaundiced.
It's not as, the energy isn't as crazy.
No. You can actually understand what he's saying.
Yeah, I don't want to say restrained, because I don't know if that's the right word, but less frenetic, I guess, because you can understand him.
Yeah.
And
he's less sweaty.
He's less sweaty. He's doing cocaine in every scene that he's in. Literally every scene he does. It's just leans over and does a line.
Well, he's got such a big nose. That's just gotta hoover it up.
You can get so much.
You get so much cocaine in that nose.
So it's certainly the most interesting part of this movie. I gotta say, I love the part.
I feel emphasis on the word interesting.
Yes, it's
I don't think it's good, but it is the best part, because it's finally a break from the dreariness.
Yes, at least someone is bringing something to the table, even if what they're bringing to the table is
insanity.
Cocaine.
Yeah, cocaine.
And we did get the scene. I guess it's supposed to be a counter to the story of the other brothers. His brother.
I kind of loved that scene.
It was bananas.
It was bananas when he's reading the letter that he
had. The letter. My favorite scene in the film.
Yeah,
for sure is the letter scene. In the middle of all this kidnapping business.
Oh, and we didn't even talk about his brother.
No, that's what I'm talking about now.
Yeah, we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
But, like, Jesus.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm starting.
We gotta back up from the letter, though.
Yes. So, in the middle of all this kidnapping business, out of nowhere, his brother just shows up, and they're like, your brother Buddy is here. And we know that Buddy runs some crime stuff in New Orleans.
I think he was in Biloxi.
No, they're in Biloxi.
Because didn't he say, how do you like it in the Big Easy? I guess the Big Easy's New Orleans, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he says at one point, I don't want to be here in Mississippi. And literally I saw Biloxi on a sign. So they're in Biloxi. Though no one in this movie has an accent.
No.
No one has a southern accent.
Smart choice, I think.
Probably a smart choice. But honestly, could have helped. So his brother's waiting outside, and he's clearly nervous to go see his brother, and he goes out to the car, and in the car, did he have a do-rag on?
Oh, yes.
He had a do-rag, and he had glasses, and he had the most insane facial hair, like just bushy facial hair.
Bushy, dark, too dark.
Yes. It looked like, oh my god, this is gonna be a real deep pull. You remember that, like, metal filings magnetic thing where you could draw and all the metal filings?
Wooly Willy.
Yes, that's what it looked like. That's what his hair looked like. All the metal filings. And I think he had sunglasses on. But what was great,
he had sunglasses for most of it because, the, like, fun trivia thing is his brother is played by Nicolas Cage's real brother, Christopher Coppola, who directed Deadfall and wrote Deadfall, and appeared in this, like, cameo role in this.
Yes, and clearly has
and I kept wanting him to take his sunglasses off so I could see how much they looked like each other, because I don't really know what Christopher Coppola looks like. He did sound a lot like Nicolas Cage.
They did sound very similar.
But I don't think he looks that much like him.
They don't really look alike. No, I would say that. And granted, we did see him with this crazy facial hair on, and we didn't see him with his glasses off very much. But I don't think they looked much alike. He was not an actor.
No.
He had a rough time given his lines. But he is gonna kill Eddie for reasons? Money? I don't know. It wasn't clear to me.
Yeah, I had no idea why he was gonna kill him.
Went from 0 to 60 and was just gonna shoot Eddie.
Yeah.
And instead, Eddie, beats him to death.
I guess he was going to kill him because he thought that the kidnapping was a step too far. And
Maybe
he heard about
the
kidnapping somehow.
Okay.
But, who cares?
Who cares? I don't know. It didn't matter because then Eddie just beats the shit out of him. Blood everywhere. Gore everywhere. In the next room over, not really room, everything's divided by, plastic tarps.
Yeah, because they're in a hotel, a motel for this.
Are they?
Yes. They drive up, you see them drive up to the motel, and they're in a motel, and for some reason Eddie's guys get there, and that was unclear of why Eddie's guys knew that they were there.
Yeah.
But they definitely drove up to a motel and then went to wherever they were holding Mikey.
I thought they were in the plastic tarp area.
Every place is a plastic tarp area in this movie, though.
I don't understand the buildings in this.
It's
thought
just
it was all the same building.
You know what else this movie is? It's Dexter, because every place that they go is the kill room.
I thought it was all the same building that had the tarp set up.
No, they were definitely in a motel for that.
Okay. But the next scene is then Mikey is tied up because we have found out at this some time ago that Mikey is not willingly going along with this plan. He would not do that. He literally says, I would never do that to my brother. So they beat him up and take him anyway. And so Eddie sits down across from him and is just like, can I read you the letter that I wrote my brother on the way here? And he pulls out this letter. It's sad because it's talking about when they were kids. Buddy let him take the fall for stealing something.
Cars,
they
were
stealing cars.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't tell on Buddy. Instead went to prison for 3 years, assuming when he got out, he would get a share. And his brother would pick him up. And his brother just used his money and abandoned him. And so he's reading this letter.
He's
and
weeping.
Just weeping and screaming at different points. And then he finishes with, what do you think? Should I send it? I probably can't because I killed him today!
It's incredible.
That was the highlight of the film. Everything was downhill from there.
Best part.
Yep. Oh, okay. So wait, I gotta talk about this because I didn't understand this part in the film. So, JP is running all over trying to get this money, and of course, like, even if you have a business, you don't have like a
Liquid
ton
cash.
of liquid assets. It's mostly in stuff. So he tells his like partner or assistant, you know, okay, liquidate as much as you can. I need $350,000 for 4 days, and his partner's kind of like, and you find out later it's because his partner was embezzling money to do some other schemes, and so then the next day, partner shows up with this like giant neck cast on, like he's gotten like whiplash or had gotten the shit beat out of him, and has a briefcase full of money.
And he says, I did it for you, boss.
I did it for you, but he never tells us how he got the money.
Not
or
important,
what happened
I guess.
to his neck. That's never spoken of again.
So
But this is the part I don't understand.
No.
Wait, let me get to it. Because at this point, they have like a day left, but he's got the money. And so he was willing to pay it. But for some reason, now it's like this,
Eddie lowers it.
Eddie lowers the amount and also kidnaps Mikey's teenage daughter to up the stakes. But at this point, I was like, I thought he was ready to pay. And so I don't understand what I missed.
Was. I have no idea either. And it was something that didn't make any sense. And I feel like part of it was JP. So I'm not going to defend it. I'm just going to explain what I think the logic in the movie was.
Okay.
Because I don't think it makes sense still.
Yeah.
But this is what I think they were trying to tell us.
Okay.
JP tried to insist on talking to him again before they met up. And I think that spooked Eddie a little bit.
Okay.
And so he changed the deal to try to ensure that the deal even happened.
But he'd already let him talk to him once.
Right.
Okay.
But he tried to talk to him a second time.
Not a second time. That changes everything.
Honestly, like I said, I'm not defending it. I just think that's, like, what the internal logic of the movie was.
I didn't understand the last, like...
I thought when they kidnapped the daughter, they were going to try to get more money, because that would
make sense.
But they lowered it by $150,000.
Yeah. That didn't make any sense. I was so... No. Yeah. Anyway...
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. I also really want to know how the assistant got the money. If he got his
everything
neck
broken. They over-explained everything to us and then didn't tell us.
Well,
what
honestly,
happened.
they under-explained a lot of things to us. Because they under-explained the neck thing. They also under-explained John Cusack's role.
Yeah, all right.
Let's talk about when he goes and punches the boyfriend.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we skipped over one of the weirdest parts of the film.
So a lot of this movie is John Cusack and JP driving around trying to figure out where Mikey is.
Yeah.
And who has Mikey. And so they go to places. And he goes and talks to the mother, and the mother's like, my main concern is Alexis. And then he's like, well, I'm gonna go and get Alexis then. And
Side quest.
Somehow finds Alexis in whatever, like, this hotel with her boyfriend. And the boyfriend is, like, being a jerk to her. And, like, is like, you gotta smoke this drugs. And, and then she's like, I don't want to smoke the drugs. And he's like, you gotta smoke it, bitch. And then he, like, slaps her in the face. And then just as he's doing that, Uncle JP comes charging through the door in slow motion, fists a-blazing, I guess. And he, like, punches the boyfriend down in slow motion. And it was hilarious.
And took Alexis away. And that was just, like, it ended up being kind of important because we found out later the boyfriend worked for Eddie.
Like, at least
helps
knew Eddie.
Kidnap her.
Yeah.
But in the moment, and I mean, really, it was largely unconnected to anything.
Yeah, it was just like side quest.
It was just a side quest he went on.
It was just to be like, Alexis is in a bad crowd, because they hadn't really demonstrated that to us yet.
And I guess to show, like, we haven't seen JP do anything badass yet.
Well, he had already, like, shaken down that guy that was breaking into Mikey's apartment.
Yeah, but that
guy was like strung out. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say that wasn't.
It wasn't very
particularly impressive. But I don't think
hitting
the boyfriend
was Rusty already too.
Yeah, I didn't know who Rusty was.
Rusty was the one that stole Mikey's coke at the beginning of the movie.
Got it. I knew they were chasing down someone named Rusty, but
Rusty actually at least was somebody. Yeah.
I was more interested in my French fries than the film because this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. That whole bit was just like, all right. I don't know how he found her. I don't know anything about why this is happening. And then she gets kidnapped. 20 minutes later. So
Wild.
yeah, and we didn't see, she got kidnapped, and, like, basically they, like, showed her to JP, and then I don't even know where she was. She wasn't there when, anyway.
Yeah, when did they get her? Because, like, we did definitely, so we're, like, moving towards the end of the movie, right?
Yes.
So they, somehow JP, I'm just gonna, like, ... somehow JP gets Mikey, like, we don't know how he knew where Mikey was. That's not important. But he breaks loose Mikey, but Alexis isn't there. Alexis, the daughter.
Yeah, this part, wait, no, don't gloss over this, because it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense, and part of the reason that I couldn't ever figure out what fucking building that they were in, because Eddie meets with JP in this public place to tell him where to bring the money and when.
And to, like, and then imply that he has Alexis.
Yes, he's like, we've got your niece now, too. And so he's like, come to this bar tonight at this time. And so then we see, badass shot of Adrian Grenier, or whatever his name is, loading a gun
in the standing sunset. Overlooking, like, the docks.
Yes.
With his gun.
Ridiculous. And then he's going into a building with the gun drawn, and he finds Mikey, and he frees him. And they're like, we're going to go kill all these guys. And I thought, first we were like, how did they find him? And then we said, oh, it must be the same building. And for some reason, he's not guarded, and he just, like, went in the back door. I don't know. But then they, like, roll up on a totally different building.
Yeah.
I think.
Probably. Because, like, that's the other confusing thing is Eddie, Nicolas Cage, when he was giving him instructions, did tell him to go to the back door of the bar that they were in and ask Luca to, like, get him Eddie or whatever at the back door of the bar instead of the front. But obviously, like, they didn't have to go through their wild, like, Dexter plastic-wrapped room.
Yeah, and I thought it was like a trap, and they were letting him think that they were like, he could free Mikey, but it wasn't. He freed him.
And then Alexis was specifically not there.
She wasn't there.
And then we never see where they get Alexis from.
We see her at the barbecue at the end. We don't know how they freed her or where she was.
We do see him kill Eddie again. Eddie dies again.
Much less exciting this time. Honestly, very anticlimactic. He just gets, like, shot twice.
There's a bomb in the suitcase full of money.
The bomb in the suitcase with the money.
Like, that also explodes him, because that was one of the slow motion things that I thought was hilarious, was seeing JP in slow motion as the thing was exploding. Like, you knew there was a bomb in there. Why did you move
further back? Yeah. Oh, it was so stupid. The ending was so dumb.
Yeah, they have like a big old shootout with.
They have a shootout, slow motion. It is, honestly, it takes like 1 minute probably for the action to happen, but they slow it down, so it's like a 5-minute scene. And everybody they shoot people up, and that's it. And then
it's the barbecue.
That's the barbecue. And
then they're back at the baseball fields where he gave them that mower so many years ago.
They can play baseball.
Oh yeah, and they play baseball. Like,
so are they any better off at the end than they were at the beginning, or is it just back to normal?
Well, Eddie's dead.
Eddie's dead, but at the beginning he wasn't involved with Eddie.
No.
He hadn't seen Eddie in like 6 or 7 years.
But it was implied too that, like, he would come after them, probably, and kill them if...
I'm talking just...
No, I think personally. They are at square one.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Maybe they learned something along the way, but probably not.
Because we see them have, like, happy baseball time at the beginning, and then it ends with happy baseball time. So, if you wanted to show growth, then the first time you should have had, like, JP be like, do you want to hit the ball or something? And him be like, no, man, like, I'm not up to it or something. So we can see them grow.
Why would it be growth if he didn't want to play baseball?
To show, it's a metaphor for the relationship. Like, that they are getting along and, like, happy together.
They should have had him back at the arcade or something.
The arcade would make more sense. I wanted the arcade to come back. And then I still believe every building was the arcade. I know you don't believe me, but I think they're in the arcade.
The whole time.
Maybe.
Maybe we're in the arcade.
I think that the building that he was tied up in was the old arcade.
Could be.
Because that's where they are at the beginning. Is his
that's where Eddie met
method
up with
of
him.
Operation was
when they were like meeting in a public place. That was definitely the arcade.
Was it?
Yes.
But the one scene where he's going to untie Mikey, there's all these sheet covered like furniture. Those are arcade games.
I don't know.
You know what?
There's a lot of rooms covered in plastic sheeting.
No, it's not. They are actual like sheets. Like in a house that's closed up, you cover the furniture with sheets in movies. You know, in movies, not in real life. And the shapes were the arcade shapes.
Okay.
I don't care if you don't believe me. I don't care. Maybe it wasn't intentionally. Maybe they just were also shooting there and they had to cover
they
them
had
up.
the rights to film in like a place.
Yeah, and then they had to just change it for every scene. They also
wanted it to be.
And this is the like picture that's on the like HBO Max like banner.
Oh yeah, they like the strip club that they only showed once.
But we never see, and like not that I want them to show women like stripping.
Let the record show Liz wanted titties in this movie.
Not enough titties. Is my takeaway. But why would you set a scene in a strip club if you aren't showing the strippers? Just make it a bar.
Yeah, no, I agree, that was weird.
It just didn't make sense.
And like Eddie was hanging out in strip clubs all the time in Deadfall.
It could have been a full circle thing because he spent a ton of time.
But again, like I feel like it was the same character only in costume.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was just like a little,
just
like a wink, to people who know it, but it's not the
Easter
same
egg for Nicolas Cage fans.
I guess so, but it was a rotten Easter egg, and I didn't want it.
No one wanted your Easter egg.
Ugh, yeah. Don't watch this movie, guys.
No.
Yeah, I'm over it.
It's not good. But, we did watch it. How, the Rotten Tomato score?
Ooh, this is tough because I would have put this at a 0%.
And somehow we know it's not.
Yeah. This is way worse than Grand Isle and Deadfall. Deadfall was bananas, but at least it was entertaining.
There was a man with a claw.
There's a man with a crazy claw who was played by the tall man. And, Nicolas Cage's face got deep fried. It was crazy. I liked it.
It was crazy.
I'm going to say it's a 10%.
All right. So when I put together the spreadsheet, it was 3% for critics. So nearly a 0%.
Okay.
And 17% for audiences.
Yeah, it's about average out to what I said.
Pretty much.
3%. I don't know who liked this film.
It was, I think, shoot. 25% there, and audiences liked both of these movies exactly the same. 25%.
Wow. That's... Okay, I kind of understand that. Because even though this movie was super boring and I hated it, I think for, like, the dudes who put on, like, action movies the way that I put on shitty horror movies would like this film.
Maybe.
Because it's just, like, dudes kicking butt. Just, like, white dudes kicking butt.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the only people I could think who would be into it.
Yeah, so I looked at, before we watched this, I looked at the Reddit our One True God subreddit,
mm-hmm.
which is the Nicolas Cage subreddit, for those who, if you know, you know, you know. And people were pretty mixed on which one was better, actually.
Wow.
Like, some people liked this one better, and some people liked Deadfall better, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they're both nonsense.
They are both nonsense.
But I feel like Deadfall errs on the side of, like, fun nonsense.
Yeah.
And this one was just, like, yeah, just a real slog. Just a real...
This one had no twist.
No twist.
And, like, not that I liked the twist, especially in Deadfall.
But twist!
At least the twist kept me, like, I'd rather be mad about a movie than, like, meh about a movie.
Yes. Yes. I was just, like, I paused it 15 minutes before the end to see how much time was left.
And we were surprised at both how little there was and how much there was at the same time.
Yeah, this movie's less than an hour and a half long, but it felt very long.
And then at the same time, it was like, there's 15 minutes left. How are they going to wrap all this up in that amount of time? And the answer is like with a very underwhelming action scene.
And then almost no denouement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. But
that's the movie.
That's the movie. There it is.
How cagey. Less cagey than Deadfall.
Oh, yeah. Less cagey than Deadfall.
More cagey than most things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that this is like... This was certainly made by someone who is a Cage fan. And very much was like, yeah, man, do big. Like, go big. Do whatever you want.
We want Eddie.
Yes.
Like, somebody who had seen Deadfall and was like, we want this guy.
Yes. Yeah. It felt like it, they had him in there as sort of like a Cage fanboy and let him loose. So yeah, I think it was certainly less cagey than Deadfall because almost everything is. But
Deadfall is when you let him go just 110% cage.
Yeah.
I don't think you get cagier than Deadfall.
You can't.
And it's not good.
No. It goes too...
It's
it
when you
shows
go
you
too
what
far.
happens if you go too far. Because it was
incoherent and
distracting and weird, and it didn't match the rest of the action.
But it was funny.
It was great. That being said, loved every minute of it.
Like we said last week, we were just screaming every time he was on camera.
Yes. I think we stopped and had to rewind some things. So
and then still didn't understand what he said even on the rewind.
No, we couldn't figure it out. We didn't have captions,
No.
and I don't even know if there are captions for it because
it
I'm
made
sure
$18,000.
Someone trying to caption that would just be like,
I don't know, guys.
incoherent mumbling. Like that's what they would write.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's certainly that franchise. I don't know, sequel.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right. So that's the movie. And now it's time for Inside the Cage.
You didn't prepare me for that. You made hard eye contact while you did it. I was caught unawares.
Well, I can't do the same thing every time.
It was like a witch inside the cage.
Well, I had done like a wrestling announcer every single time before this.
Just a little warning next time. Oh my god. What do you have for us inside the cage? Witch Brittany.
Just do the whole segment in a witch voice.
It's almost Halloween.
It's almost Halloween. And this week...
I just wish you would stop looking at me when you did it. Stop staring into my face when you do the voice.
So...
Happy news, everyone!
Happy news. Nicolas Cage is a father for the third time. Father to a baby girl named August Francesca Coppola Cage.
Yes, which raised the interesting question, is his last name legally Cage now, and that's why his child has that last name?
But it's also Coppola Cage.
Maybe that's his legal name.
Could be. That's what I would put my money on.
Yeah. Glad we solved that mystery.
And August is named after his dad.
Yes,
which I think is cute.
Nice. Yeah, so he is 3 times a father, which I say makes him a real big daddy now. That's from a movie. We haven't watched that one yet, so it's okay if you guys don't know. I don't just call him that.
Oh, man. It sure does. Yeah, and then there's more news also, because his wife gave birth, and then like a day or two later, he jetted off to the Toronto International Film Festival for the premiere of a new movie, Butcher's Crossing, which we'll be talking about as soon as it actually goes to wide release.
Yes, it is. It seems to be a sort of Moby Dick, but Western.
And it's his first Western.
Which is crazy.
I don't know how he's made so many movies and hasn't done a Western yet.
I can't believe he hasn't done a Western. We talked about earlier that he had learned to to ride a horse until...
For specifically Season of the Witch.
Yes. Which seems late in his life.
It does seem late.
That he had never been in a horse movie.
Yeah. No
I guess
westerns.
he doesn't do a lot of period films.
Can't you just... I was talking with somebody about this. Can't you just picture him in a cowboy hat?
Yes.
And I don't even think he wears a cowboy hat in this one. He's got like a shaved bald head in this. I've seen some pictures.
Well, there was like a premiere
he's
wore
like kind of like
too.
more of like a pioneer type.
Yeah.
But
he's definitely worn a cowboy hat to a premiere before. Because I picture it clearly in my mind.
Are there pictures of Nicolas Cage in a cowboy hat on the internet?
Absolutely. As we Google away at top speed.
Here we go. Oh yeah, that's what I'm picturing. Wow,
Yep.
he really likes that hat.
Yep.
There's a lot of pictures of him in the exact same hat, but different clothes for the rest of
I
his
appreciate
clothes.
that. Yeah, keep wearing the same shit. You don't have to buy new stuff every time.
I'm
This
gonna
looks like...
create a compilation for Instagram of him wearing just this one hat.
What is this picture from? It looks like he was in a movie where he was wearing a cowboy hat.
Let's see it.
The Old Way?
The Old Way, but that's
2021.
2021. That's not out yet. That comes out soon.
Oh, okay.
He did. Well, we've talked before about how he seems to do similar movies sort of back to back to each other, and he's in his Western phase right now. He's getting them out of the way.
Yeah, in this article it says this is his first ever Western.
But it's not out yet.
But it hasn't been released, so I guess that makes Butcher's Crossing his first Western.
Sure does.
But yeah, it's been getting mostly good reviews.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
I sort of Googled, and a lot of the reviews were sort of like, Nicolas Cage is great, this movie is fine. But overall, it seems like people like it. So, yeah, I'm excited to see it. I love an Ahab moment.
I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's an adaptation of a book. I have not read the book. I've heard it described as a psycho-western, and I don't know what that means, and I'm excited about it.
Okay.
And yeah, and I saw a
Any Western with Nick Cage is a psycho-western.
That's true. I heard him talking about his character because he's very much been described as sort of like a Captain Ahab type.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw an interview that I really enjoyed, him talking about how he was sort of thinking about the role and sort of talking about like, you see like young Michael Jordan and his like driving need for success.
Yeah.
And like some of those other like top class sort of athletes and athletic characters where they're just sort of on another level from other humans.
Yeah.
Where they just like have this insane drive that's like almost crazy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And how he sort of drew from that when he was thinking about this character. So I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to see him play another anti-hero, which it sounds like this might be, and at least an antagonistic role, if not the antagonist.
Yeah.
But yeah, excited to see that sometime.
Yeah.
Woo!
All right, is that?
That's that. What's up next?
We're going to be doing some horror movies because it's October. And it's the spooky season.
The
Liz's
season
favorite
of
time
the
of year.
witch.
We're not doing that one again. We already did that one. But
it is my favorite. It is my favorite season, and I will have this whole apartment decorated next time to be ready for this film.
Yeah, we'll have to. We'll do a tour for the Instagram.
Yes, please.
Speaking of the Instagram, you should follow us on all of your social medias because we're not going to officially say what horror movies we're doing next just yet because we've got some special spooky surprises in store and perhaps that we're not ready to announce yet.
Mm-hmm.
But keep your eye on the Instagram and we're an old enough podcast now. If you've been listening to us and you enjoy it consistently, we're gonna throw in the whole rate, review, subscribe.
Yeah, rate, review, subscribe.
All of those things that all the other podcasts do because we're finding our sea legs here, I think.
That's right.
And we want you to tell your friends about us.
Tell everyone
Tell
you
them
know.
only good things, though. Only good things.
Play this podcast at your work. Do you cut hair? Play this podcast. Do you teach school? Play this podcast.
Make your boss watch Grand Isle like I did.
I'm going to make everyone watch Grand Isle. I can't wait to trick my family into watching Grand Isle.
That you should.
We
Everyone
always
should
have
see Grand
trouble
Isle.
picking out a film because we
Yeah.
all have different movie tastes, and whenever we're together, for
And
like
every
a
time that
holiday,
you request a movie, it's like Nicolas Cage.
now,
Or horror. Nicolas Cage or horror, and that's the only
we
things
have
that
to
Liz
find
recommends.
like the ground between like action and like weird sci-fi and horror, and so I'm gonna be like, you know what, everyone would love this
Grand
movie,
Isle.
and then
That
they'll be
has
like,
action and horror and Nicolas Cage.
that's right. I think it works, and
Mhm.
if not, doesn't matter. I have the remote. All right, guys. Thank you so
That's all
much
we have.
for hanging out with us. We will see you soon. In the meantime,
Stay cagey!
stay cagey, folks.
Bye!
Bye.